Hello, everyone. Welcome to Magic and Media, brought to you by the Vibe Collective and me, Carly D, a reader and manager here at the Vibe Collective. This podcast blends magic with the current pop culture news and moments to show you that magic is all around us. Every day, we just have to look around and find it. So we find the metaphysical and the magic in the world all around us and share it with you. Welcome to Magic and Media. Today, we are going to jump right in with the energy of the Capricorn New Moon, which we experienced this past Sunday, and some pop culture news that came out on Monday that I feel really breaks down and kind of shows us what the Capricorn moon may be doing for us. And part of why I like to do this is because you hear people talk about full moons and new moons all the time, but we're all having our own collective, our own individual experience here on Earth. So when you can use like public stories like this to kind of show people or break down what's happening during these lunar cycles or these moon cycles, we can then kind of see our own stories, our own journeys, and where they all kind of line up as well. So we are going to talk about first the Beckham family breakup, really. And if you are a Bravo fan listening, the Kyle and Amanda Summerhouse split. So I'm taking these two stories, right? The Beckham, Brooklyn Beckham, who is the son of Victoria and David Beckham, posted Instagram stories on Monday breaking down why he does not have a relationship with his parents, really airing a lot of their dirty laundry, their family stuff, and ultimately saying, I don't want to pursue a relationship with my parents moving forward, and this is my choice. Now, with the Bravo storyline, Amanda and Kyle have been on a show, Summer House, which is on Bravo, for many years and seasons. They dated on the show, got engaged on the show, got married on the show, and on Monday they announced that they are amicably splitting up, will no longer be in each other's lives. So what is the common denominator in these two kind of pop culture news breakup stories? One being like a family dissolution and one being a marriage dissolution. And that is shaking up former foundations that do not work for us anymore, even if they were very pivotal in our lives. Because again, these were marriages and a child-parent relationship. These were very serious relationships. Now, I do think there are ways to work on these types of relationships. These are high commitment, high priority relationships like in our lives. In both of these situations, a marriage and a parent-child relationship, some may say, are some of the most important relationships we will ever have. So I do think there is always space to work on these relationships because of how important they are. However, the Capricorn New Moon can highlight that if we don't do the work to fix things, when we see problems, eventually we will see something like this: a dissolution of a marriage, a dissolution of a relationship, maybe quitting a job or moving to a different city. If we don't do the work on things, we see our problems in our life like this, especially these big relationships. And if you follow pop culture, both of these stories have kind of been going on for years, right? Even in the public, we know that these have been an issue. So if we don't do the work on those big relationships, this is what it results in. And Capricorn is about stability, like we were saying last week, grounding, foundation. So it being a Capricorn new moon is saying, I'm looking for a fresh start. I'm doing away with what has not worked for me anymore, even if these foundations were pivotal at one time. We have free will and the power to shake up those relationships. So I do think it was really interesting that those stories drop right after a Capricorn new moon. There's always kind of something that happens astrologically when big news drops like this. So it's kind of always interesting from an astrology perspective. But with Capricorn being an earth sign, again, all about foundation, boundaries, stability, to see both of these coming out, very timely, very timely. So I'm sure that there will be change, but this is like something we're going to have to work on, right? This isn't something that's just going to happen. So these stories did come out on Monday. This was MLK Day. So right after the Capricorn New Moon. So now is the time to build these new foundations for the individuals in this story. And I'm sure it will be fruitful to them, even though these were important relationships. Choosing to have a fresh slate, a clean foundation, I think is fruitful overall. But of course, there is an element of sacrifice with this new foundation. It's very interesting because the card that I pulled for our Vibe Collective reading on Saturday the 17th, which was the day before this Capricorn New Moon, was the Eight of Cups, which is all about leaving behind something that looks good on paper or that we've worked really hard for or that has worked for us for a really long time, but is no longer working for us. So it's time to make some sort of sacrifice to move forward. And that Eight of Cups, I think, was kind of a wink to a lot of us. Think about Saturday and Sunday of this past weekend for yourself, where we had this Capricorn New Moon. That Eight of Cups again is asking us, where can we let go of things even though they're comfortable for us? Where can we let go of things to let new things in, to let new energy in? And that's what I think even in this situation that is happening. This is hard, right? But ultimately, I feel we do have to make decisions in big relationships. In these stories, big dissolutions are happening, so big decisions were made, but these are big sacrifices. So now they will have a new foundation. They will have a fresh start that is different from this one that they left behind, but it doesn't make it easy. Like, I also want to know in both of these stories, a lot of people, if you're, again, a Bravo fan, we're kind of cheering for Amanda to leave Kyle, but we have to remember this was a marriage. This was her husband. So even though we may think he may look a certain way on TV, this was something that was very important for her. This was something that she was really fighting for. So ultimately, it is a sacrifice. It is a sacrifice to let this marriage go, but she will be having a new foundation built for herself with this Capricorn New Moon. So pretty timely to have these kind of big shifts and transitions. So I do like to break down this kind of stuff with celebrity news or news that we're seeing in the media, because we can really see these themes that are highlighted with the signs, with the lunar cycles on more of a world scale or a grand scale. So I hope that helps break down what the Capricorn New Moon did. Maybe even broke it down a little bit of what it did for you. So you can see that these cycles really do line up with big shifts, big changes that we see not only in our lives, but in the world. Like I said, on this grander scale. So Capricorn New Moon, boundaries, stability, foundation. That was what we had on Sunday. So this is our first week coming out of that Capricorn New Moon. What revelations did you have? What did you notice about yourself and your journey as we get ready to start this year? Which really we've started, but I always say January is kind of the warm up, into a new year. Now, another really fun topic we have, because we've talked about fashion the last couple episodes, so we're going to stay right on that fashion train here. I did see they've dropped some kind of hints, some stuff that's coming out about the winter Dior collection. And as soon as I saw it, I was clocked it immediately. They had crystal necklaces, were shown on their Instagram. This is done by Jonathan Anderson, who's like the main creative director, designer, of Dior right now. I will say, I'm chronically online, so I have seen that Jonathan Anderson does get tarot readings, and I think that is really cool and very interesting because, again, we're seeing a lot of astrology, crystals, and stuff like that show up. So I am not surprised to see crystal necklaces showing up in the Dior collection, especially knowing that this is something that's been trending. This is something that the Dior creative director is interested in, the metaphysical, tarot, things like that. So we're going to talk about the necklaces that I saw that were very obviously crystals. So the first one was pyrite, which pyrite is a crystal or mineral that does look like gold. It's often known as fool's gold, But pyrite is very good for abundance, prosperity. Talk about stability too. I do recommend it for financial stability, putting it on your desk at work, especially if you work in finance, or any kind of business based thing. But pyrite is a crystal for abundance, prosperity. I do think of it as like a money stone, but it has a lot of earthly kind of grounding qualities too. But again, big prosperity. It looks gold and it actually grows in a cube in its natural form, which is why I feel it is good for stability and foundations. So that was the first crystal necklace. I saw that they had really cool, very like chunky crystals, so like big crystals. But yeah, pyrite would be a great crystal to wear if you do a lot of business, and if you're looking for that prosperity grounding structure. They also had a clear quartz necklace. So clear quartz is really the crystal that looks almost just like clear glass. It is a clear stone. This was a necklace as well. So they were both necklaces. And clear quartz is really an amplifier of energy, but it is also known as the master healer in the crystal world. So basically, if you need like general good energy that's like, to me, encouraging, motivating energy, but more in a pure form, not focused on like one theme or like one chakra. Like, lots of crystals focus on your heart chakra or your solar plexus. If you're looking for a stone that is really just, like I said, that pure, motivating, encouraging energy, clear quartz is good for that. Clear quartz is really good for focusing your energy, I would say, and energizing you. So taking all of your energy to like a point. That's why you see lots of clear quartz points or towers, because it's the idea of amplifying all the energy and all the energy around you to one point, right? And making it very focused. So I've often used clear quartz, especially points, when you're working on a certain goal, a certain thing, and you want to really put your focus of energy on that, on a certain goal. And that could be like if you're writing a book, putting intention on a crystal like that to focus any extra energy you have on taking time to write your thoughts. If you're an artist, I would say even taking clear quartz and using that as something to focus your energy or motivation into just general creating, right? Taking that time and focusing that energy on creating in whatever way that looks like. So instead of, I kind of think of it as clear quartz is very open-ended, where some crystals kind of put certain energy or themes into a box. But with clear quartz, it kind of works for anything. We're just focusing it for that specific goal, that specific thing. You can also pair clear quartz with other crystals to amplify their energy. So the idea would be, let's say you wore both the pyrite necklace and the clear quartz necklace, you'd be amplifying the energy of the pyrite with the clear quartz. So you'd be amplifying that energy of prosperity, abundance, stability, and foundation just by pairing a clear quartz with a pyrite, right? Or if you were wanting more love, right? Just all in general love in your life, you could pair a clear quartz with a rose quartz, and that would amplify the energy of love, all kinds of love in your life. There are different crystals for romantic love, I would say, or even familial love. And we can really get into that if anyone excuse me, cough, has real crystal questions, we can really get into it. But clear quartz, again, is that amplifier of energy, which is why you can pair it with other more themed or chakra-based crystals for those goals as well. But overall, again, just energizing. And something I like to point out with clear quartz is that clear quartz is in a lot of things we use, right? So like lots of screens in our phones, computers are all made of clear quartz. It's in a lot of watches and a lot of technology and things we use that use energy. So clear quartz is very all-encompassing, master healer, meaning it really covers all the bases. Even when I would get sick with a common cold, I would actually like hold a clear quartz and program the crystal or put the intention on it to have healing energy and just master healing, amplifying healing energy. And I know that sounds really woo-woo, even for a woo-woo podcast like this, but clear quartz does have a place in my heart. I just love it because of its honestly open-endedness. It can be used for anything. We have to choose the intention to put on it. And I think there's some power in that as well, choosing what intention we are going to use with this kind of open-ended energy, right? So those were the two crystals that I saw in the Dior winter line, and that was pyrite necklaces and clear quartz necklaces. So again, I think we will see lots of astrology, celestial, moon, stars, tarot, and crystals in fashion this year. This is just another example of that, especially like we said with creative people, designers like Jonathan Anderson, getting tarot readings, utilizing the metaphysical. There are lots of stories, of celebrities, people using stuff like this, getting tarot readings, getting birth chart readings to really see what to do, right? What to do next. I often say that a birth chart is like a blueprint of your life. If you know how to read it, you can really optimize things for yourself. So there's a lot to be said, about using tools like the metaphysical, tarot, astrology, Reiki, in your creative pursuits and your goals. I actually love doing lots of readings that are based around career, purpose, jobs, job promotions, buying property, looking at new houses. This is all very grounded real life stuff. And I've had readings about buying property, buying houses myself, and everything the reader said was right. So if we have these tools at our disposal, why not use them for these bigger choices and these bigger parts of our life? Because a lot of the time it is affirming of things that maybe we're scared to do or nervous to do. And I I see that show up a lot with creatives and fashion being such a big movement of creativity. Something we wear, something we carry with us. It's really cool to see magic in media showing up this way in the fashion houses. So again, we will be talking more about fashion and media. Check out the Dior crystal necklaces that they have going on. They're really cool. And I just love to see that kind of stuff showing up in the mainstream. Now, our next topic is about Aquarius season. We are officially in Aquarius season. We have shifted from Capricorn to Aquarius. And Aquarius, we're going to break down just the generalness of Aquarius, right? They are an air sign, but they are the water bearer. So a lot of times people think they're a water sign. I want to remind you, Aquarius is an air sign, and air signs are very in their head. They're thinkers, right? So lots of Aquarius are very smart, but I will say they think very differently. They're trailblazers. They are doing things in a way other people are not. There is another connection with Aquarius and aliens. Lots of people say Aquarians have kind of an otherworldly, an extraterrestrial energy to them. And that is because maybe they were an alien in a past life and they're not used to being on Earth, being, in this world. They're used to other worlds, other dimensions. We're getting really woo-woo sounding in some of this, but think of the Aquarius that right? They probably do think a lot different. They probably are into sci-fi or science, maths, things like that. Again, they're very smart. They're definitely thinkers, very cerebral, very in their minds. Some famous celebrities who are Aquarius would be Paris Hilton, Oprah, Jennifer Aniston, Harry Styles, Alicia Keys, Meg Thee Stallion. These people to me are all big trailblazers or doing something differently in their life from the common, right? Aquarius really march to the beat of their own drum. They're not going to just do what everyone else is doing. They're going to do what feels right to them and what works for them. And if it's different, they don't really care. You don't really have to worry where you stand with an Aquarius. They will tell you, which I think is a very real thing of them as an air sign, right? They're very straightforward. They're very to the point. I would say Gemini is like that too as an air sign. They don't really care as much what people think. The air sign that does is Libra. I know I've made my joke on this podcast before about Libras and how Kim Kardashian is a Libra, and that's all you need to know. She will do anything to stay in public favor, to stay in the center of attention, to be liked. And of the air signs, I would say Aquarius probably cares the least about being liked. They are a fixed sign, which means they're not open to change. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit later too, but they don't care if people like them, right? They are going to do what they want to do. They may seem a little shy in public, or that they are really outgoing, but really, to me, Aquarius, again, are careful about who they hang out with, because they're not fake. If they don't like you, they're not going to hang out with you. And when they speak, it often is because it matters to them. They don't just talk to fill space like a Gemini. And I'm a Gemini, so I can say that. Geminis do talk to fill space, where Aquarius are more shy. They are talking with purpose. So that's just kind of my basic breakdown of Aquarius. And again, think of people you know who have birthdays happening right now. Do they fit into that? Are they more bold when they speak? No filter is another way I would describe Aquarius. But again, those are all very positive things in a lot of ways too. Now, back to our kind of celebrities. I do think of people like Paris Hilton and Oprah as big faces, right? Well known, but they did things differently. There was no one else really doing what they were doing, creating what they were creating. Even really Alicia Keys and Meg Thee Stallion fit into that, right? They don't really care about pleasing the masses. It's about creating what they love, and then in turn, other people love it because of its authenticity. So that is another really, I feel, big factor of Aquarius is their authenticity. It's almost like they can't help it, right? Like they can't help but be authentic. Aquarius are very unique, and they are very smart. Again, book smart, science smart. They like to think in different ways. They are authentically themselves. Another big aspect of Aquarius, grab some water, is they are the humanitarians of the zodiac. So they are not scared to go against the grain if it means they are following their heart. They are not followers, but I wouldn't even really say they're leaders. They're kind of just those who, again, march to the beat of their own drum. Sometimes they may even be considered like a loner, but it is because they are not followers, right? They are that more authentic, maybe even a little weird, but that is who they are, and they are okay with that. They don't need to be part of the crowd, right? So I don't really file them under a follower or a leader. They are, again, very unique and authentic to themselves. Now, feature-wise, lots of Aquarius do have large eyes, right? They have big eyes. I just always remember that. And when you start to see Aquarius, like, you will notice that their eyes are also maybe often captivating. So different colors that are more catching, like blue and green, maybe not that you wouldn't see like a brown-eyed Aquarius, but their eyes do stand out. The same way that like with Leos, their hair stands out, right? The lion's mane. Aquarius are all about the eyes, right? So I do also think a lot of Aquarius have blue eyes. And even when you think of aliens, you know, the stereotypical vision of an alien is the big eyes. So very fitting for Aquarius. And they also have very delicate features when it comes to physical features. So think like a very like, you know, tiny nose, very like delicate lines in their features, more angular, not as soft as some signs. I know we've talked about how some signs have a really soft appearance. I would say Aquarius is more the big eyes and angular lines is more telling of an Aquarius's physical features. Now, we've talked about how each sign in the zodiac also rules a part of the body. And I think that that is very poignant. Something that an astrologer told me a long time ago, you know, is like if a certain part of your body is hurting or, you know, drawing attention, like your shoulders hurt, that check what the moon is in. And it's probably the part of the body associated with that sign that's what the moon is in. So, for example, if your shoulders were hurting, shoulders, arms are all ruled by Gemini in the zodiac. So the moon would probably be in Gemini, right? If your shoulders were hurting. But Aquarius actually rules the ankles, the lower legs, and the circulatory system. So if you were having, a rough day and your ankles were hurting you, then the moon is probably in Aquarius. So that's the logic with that. But again, just kind of a cool kind of thing you can check if you're getting into astrology, to pay attention to those kinds of things. So yes, they do rule the lower legs, ankles, and circulatory system. So what you can do this week, this is your what you can do this week from Magic and Media, is tap into that part of your body, right? Go for a walk. Even if you live in a cold place, take a shorter walk, but take an intentional walk with no music, no podcast, just your thoughts. Very cerebral, very Aquarius. That's what you can do this week to connect to that Aquarius energy. Take a walk. So use this lower part of our body, our ankles, and sit with your mind. Take a 10-minute walk with no music, no media, nothing, and just see what thoughts come in, right? What thoughts start to stir around when we're not being distracted by other things and we are using that movement of the lower body, which Aquarius connects to, and see what comes up for you. But that is my what you can do this week to tap into the magic around you, to tap into this Aquarius energy that we are very much in right now. Take yourself on a mindful walk with no music in the AirPods and no podcast, just your thoughts. And again, very Aquarius to sit with your thoughts, and be in your head. So do that this week and let us know what you think, what comes up when you take your Aquarius season walk. And again, remember that they are an air sign, not a water sign. So they are known for being very in their head, being very cerebral. The air signs are your thoughts, right? They're very much up here in their minds. So lean into that. Take advantage of that as we are in this Aquarius season, in this time of humanitarian energy. Where also can you show up for your community, right? Or maybe walk with some of your community, be that humanitarian, reach out to those around you who need extra support right now. I can't think of a more poignant time to call on our humanitarian energy than right now in the world with Aquarius. So lean in to that humanitarian energy that is going to be in the world right now too. So they want to make a difference for the good. Aquarius really do. They care about the greater good, even though they are very inward. They do want what's best for everyone. That is their humanitarianism. But you know where you stand with them, whether you like it or not. They are fine with being themselves and not trying to fit in or say the right thing. Like some signs that want to be admired, Aquarius is very much in their own world, right? Like they don't need to be admired. They would rather be themselves. So they obviously do get along with other signs, but they are a fixed sign, which means they aren't open to change. So they're not one of those signs or people who I would be like, hey, maybe you'll change your mind. Like they're probably not going to change their mind. They are going to make up their mind and they are going to stick with it. And I say that even with following their heart, that is the humanitarian part of them. Even if it's not popular opinion, even if people don't understand, they will stand up for what their heart believes in and what matters to them. And I love that about Aquarius, right? I love that they are authentic in that way. I love that they go after what their heart really calls for and what matters to them. When they are passionate, they are passionate. It is not fake. It is not rehearsed. I think that Aquarius are very real. When it comes to their emotions, it's almost like they can't help but be real when it comes to their emotions. But again, not the first sign I would call to try and change their mind. They are fixed. And what that means is in astrology, we have 12 signs and there's a fixed, like mutable and cardinal, right? So those all mean different things. We'll kind of break them down as we talk about more stuff. But the fixed signs mean that they are not changeable, right? They do not like change. And that's what Aquarius is for the air element. They are the fixed sign. So don't try to change their mind. Don't try to understand them. Just know that. And I think that a big reason why I like covering the signs in this podcast too is because when you're astrologically aware, like that knowledge is power. So if you have Aquarius in your life and you're always trying to change their mind, maybe you just hearing that will click that like they're just not the type of people that change their mind, right? It's another way of looking at people when we know their signs. And again, I pulled up these celebrities like Paris Hilton and Oprah to show the bigger overarching themes and we see in Aquarius and characteristics we see in Aquarius on a grander scale, so we can see like where they show up in our life too. But again, I love Alicia Keys as an Aquarius because just thinking of the music, the art, the creativity that they have, there's so much there. They're so smart. What they can create is very abundant. So lean into that as well as we're in this Aquarius season. What can you create when it comes from this place of authenticity? If there were no rules, if people weren't telling you how to do things, how would you do it? It's interesting because we come into Aquarius season off of Capricorn season, and Capricorns are the hard workers, like grinding, structure. They're an earth sign, very grounded, very strong in earth energy. And then we're immediately go into Aquarius, which is air energy, flowing, creativity, cerebralness, very different than earth, Capricorn energy. But they're both very needed. They're both very necessary. Like I said, humanitarianism and looking out for our neighbor and those around us is very important right now. And that is a key pillar of Aquarius. So I'm happy to be in Aquarius season in a time where we really do need to be looking out for each other and having compassion and empathy for the other humans that we are sharing this earth with. That is very Aquarius to care about that and to notice that and to be mindful of how things are looking in a humanitarian way. So yeah, that is what we have for you this week on Magic and Media. I hope that your Aquarius season is off to a great start, and that you found some clarity in what you want to build this year and what foundations you want to pay attention to this year when it comes to the Capricorn New Moon. And we will be talking about some new energy, some new things, and some new topics next week. But I hope that all of these topics today gave you something to think about in your own life, a little reflection when it comes to the astrology happening around us. And as always, find the magic in your own life. We will see you next week.